KC Laboratory. Sponsored by Emprise Bank.
It's the KC Laboratory, sponsored by Emprise Bank. When was the last time that you were inside an actual bank structure? Now, more than ever, with everything that's going on, who you're doing business with is way more important than where they're located. Emprise Bank is a trusted business partner that can serve you anytime, anywhere. They were one of my very first banks when I was coming up, and they've taken good care of me back then. Take good care of me right now. Emprise Bank, member FDIC, our partner in possible at KC Sports Network. And for the KCSN draft guide that came out this week, and one of the primary people that worked on the KCSN draft guide is with me here. Our good pal, Matt Lane. You find him on Twitter at Matty_KCSN. Woo! Matty, the draft guide is out. How do you feel, buddy?
Well, you know, it's always a bittersweet day when the draft guide comes out because it comes out, it's great. It's a relief. You know, it's awesome seeing everybody talk, you know, all of you out there that support us talking about it, sharing your favorite parts, bits and pieces. And those of you that like to point out the players that somehow accidentally missed the draft guide that should be in there. Shout out to Cameron Thomas, defensive end out of San Diego State. Anyone listening that has not seen, he was accidentally left out of the draft guide. He's in the top 300. His write-up just got skipped. He's defensive end 17-ish in there. So we will update, and you might have to re-download it, but he will be moved in there and some other things will be fixed. But yeah, it's always funny when this day comes out, dealing with some of the shenanigans that accidentally get looked over. I mean, Craig, you didn't have to deal with it this year, but like normally it's a fun day when everybody tries to, you know, not on purpose, but like everyone's trying to be helpful and point out all the little things that just kind of got overlooked.
Yeah. You know, typically when you've got that much information, you try and do a good job of scanning through and making sure that you capture everything. Sometimes a few things slip through the cracks.
Yeah,
like
I appreciate it. I'm
Yes.
not upset
Oh,
anyway.
yes.
You guys point out. I'm glad you guys do so we can fix it. It's just, it's always like, you know, the heart drops a little bit when someone's like, hey, I noticed this. I'm like, uh-oh, here we go.
Uh-oh. I gotta figure that out. Yeah, as Matty referenced, this year, because of real life things, I was unable to be as much of a participant in the KCSN, not the moon, KCSN draft guide. I was able to contribute a feature. I was able to do the most important positions in the draft guide, kicker and punter. That was still on my plate.
Reports in there.
Bet. Yeah, sure they are. So I was able to still contribute a little bit, but Matty, you did 3 positions in the draft guide. I believe cornerback, linebacker, and interior defensive line. But in previous years, I've done cornerback and linebacker. You witnessed me just at the very end of my wits, you know, for the past several years. Why did you do this to yourself, buddy?
Yeah, this was a decision by me, huh? I decided to pick like the 2 positions besides wide receiver that have the most guys that you have to watch. Like I've always done interior defensive linemen. It's easy. You can kind of breeze through them. I find interior defensive linemen relatively easy to see good or bad. Corners and linebackers though, it's a trip. There's a lot of guys you watch. There's a lot of rough players you go through in there. So it was an adventure. I don't know how you did not like warn me to not take corners and linebackers.
You asked for it. Maddie's joking here. Maddie and I in previous years, we watch a lot of these guys together. Like, he's got an affinity for cornerbacks and linebackers. He jumped at the opportunity. Let's be honest, he did.
Now, the thing is, they might want to kick me off linebackers soon. I realize I'm very harsh on linebackers when I'm the primary grader, as a secondary grader, and I'm just watching their best game. When Craig tells me like, "Hey, go watch this game," it was fine. But like as a primary grader, when I watch their good and their bad. Boy, I feel like I put these guys down a peg or two. Like, I mean,
I was labeled the harsh grader here, and little did you know, it's just when you get through the slog of some of the ends of that, your will is broken, and then when you get to other positions, you're just like, nah, that guy sucks too. Like,
listen, Devin Lloyd. People want to talk about being good enough to go in the top 10. I have him hanging out in the back half of round 2. Like, I'm apparently a very harsh linebacker grader. Corner, I feel like I'm more more down the middle. But like, yeah, it was fun doing these positions. It was fun to get a little bit of a mix up from what I've done the years past. It kept it a little bit fresher. And, it's a lot of guys to go through those positions, but it was fun. I did want to shout out one guy, though. He didn't quite make the draft guide, and I was disappointed that he didn't get a write-up. He's in there. He just didn't get a write-up, and that's Derek Tangelo, an interior defensive lineman out of Penn State. We actually saw him at the East-West Shrine game in Las Vegas, and I was excited to go back and watch him. He's a defensive tackle, but he brings so much energy. He's always talking. He's always moving and dancing. Like, high-energy player, really good hands. Like, he has good lateral agility, good hands. So he brings a little, like, if you're looking at him in the NFL, you're looking at a guy to come off the bench, bring a little bit of pass rush, bring some energy, get out there, get upfield a little bit. Does that sound like anybody else you might know, Craig?
Man, it sounds like a guy that the Chiefs signed this week in nose tackle, interior defensive lineman, Taylor Stallworth. Taylor Stallworth played his first 2 years in New Orleans with the Saints, and he played in Indianapolis the past 2 years, coming off, I think it's fairly safe to say, coming off the best season of his career. Yes, he's a nose tackle, but he came up with 3 sacks, much like Derek Nottie. But it's the 12 QB hits that kind of jump out to me a little bit. That's consistently getting to the quarterback as a rotational guy. I mean, he is, 6'2", 305, but a bundle of energy. Matty, I remember that you liked him quite a bit coming out of South Carolina, if I remember correct.
Yes, Greg, you're right. I did. He was one of my favorite day 3 kind of sleepers on the interior defensive line. And going into the draft, everybody's always, I have quite the receipt, and I tweeted it out because, I'm self-conscious about this kind of stuff. So like, I have a tweet where somebody asked, Justice Mosqueda asked for your favorite, later round defensive lineman to watch. Taylor Stallworth was one of mine, along with Puna Ford. And then, a guy whose name I'm not going to attempt to pronounce, plays nose tackle for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Got a lot of money. It was just, that. It was a good tweet to pull back and say, hey, all 3 of these guys are still in the NFL. 2 of them are doing really well. Stallworth now plays for the Chiefs, coming off his best year. So yeah, he's just a guy I did like for essentially all the reasons we just kind of talked about. Energy, has a lot of power. He's not the best athlete, but when you put him out there on the field, you see there's some lateral agility, some body control that doesn't necessarily always happen with guys that are 300 plus pounds. And so his ability to throw, a powerful club or a powerful swim move and then still laterally skip or step out wide and then get some pressure, it exists. And you see it all going back to South Carolina. I think that was where he's at his best, getting those one-on-one pass rush reps on the interior, and he can use the power in his upper body and then the looseness of his lower body to kind of get some pressure. So I'm excited the Chiefs bring him in. How do you see him being used? Like, what do you think? He's not a true nose tackle. He's not going to two-gap anybody. He's not that long. He's not that powerful. So like, where do you see him being used for the Chiefs?
I think he's going to be, I think everybody jumped to, there's your Jaron Reed replacement. And the Chiefs last year brought in Jaron Reed to play 3-tech. But let's be clear here, because they were moving Chris Jones to defensive end. So then they come in and say, we got to move Chris Jones back inside. And Jaron Reed ended up playing a lot of nose. I think on passing downs or, maybe some of the lighter nickel downs, second and longs, where there could still be some run there, I think he makes sense to play the nose a little bit, but I do think he's going to be a little bit more of a rotational 3 kind of guy. And I think that fits. I think there's a position for that because as we've seen, Colin Saunders has been the guy that's sort of backed up Derek Nottie as a backup nose tackle. Turk Wharton is a lighter guy that you're going to want to play, more on sub rush stuff, part of the NASCAR package, when you're really pinning your ears back and having your guys penetrate. I think that Taylor Stallworth kind of falls between those 2 guys a little bit. He's going to offer enough of a run floor. He's going to offer enough of a pass rush there. He's going to be a good rotational guy that's probably going to play, maybe 15, 20% of the snaps on the season, if we're being optimistic here, but a guy that I think when he's playing in those 15 to 20%, you're going to be impressed. Like, I think he's going to do well, and I think he's going to make a bigger impact maybe than some guys that play more, but, maybe, just isn't going to get a whole lot of run because of maybe his body type, maybe, his athleticism. Yeah,
I think he is?
Who?
Xavier Williams. He's
That's
Xavier
great.
Williams kind of role. And I think that's where Jaron Reed's role came from. I think the Chiefs, they were trying this. Chris Jones wanted to play at defensive end. They were trying it, so they needed another 3-tech. But I also think the thought was, were we better when we had Xavier Williams in there, who's a little bit better of a penetrator than Derek Nottie or Mike Pennell? What if we just get really aggressive up front? We have this, pairing of Nottie that can really two-gap well, and then Jaron Reed, who could penetrate and be a pass rusher. And what if we kind of split their playing time or even give Reed more? The Chiefs tried it. It didn't really work that well. It was not that successful. It was, Jaron Reed and Chris Jones together were good, but I don't know if that was ever their best interior defensive line duo. So I wonder if you're getting that return back to that 2018, 2019, or more 2019 kind of team where you're getting that pass rushing nose tackle, that penetrating backup nose tackle is going to play a lot less reps than Jaron Reed did, because it just seemed like there was a little bit too much overlapping skill set for the way the rest of that defense played. So yeah, I kind of look at him as an Xavier Williams kind of guy. I think he's got a little bit better energy. I think not that Williams was bad. It's just, I think he's got there's just something about him on the field. There's a spark. There's a lot of juice, and not even speed, just there's something happening at all times with him. So that's kind of how I see him, but I also do understand the concept of replacing Jaron Reed just at a lower snap count or importance to the roster.
Right. Taylor Stallworth, 6'2", 305. Xavier Williams, 6'2", 309. I mean, yeah, it's very similar-ish body types. I actually really like that comparison a lot. And Xavier Williams was an important piece.
Listen, interior defensive line, KCS draft guide right here.
You got it, man. No, I think that makes a lot of sense. You're still going to see plenty of Derek Nottie on early downs. You're going to see him more of, just a rotational guy. Steve Spagnuolo likes to swap those guys out in mass. This just gives you another body. And I think that that's going to be important, because we're not, as the roster is constructed right this very moment, we are not seeing a whole bunch of defensive ends that can kick inside and rush effectively. And typically we have multiples of those guys for Steve Spagnuolo. Now, Joshua Kando may come in and surprise us. We'll see what year two has to bring for him. But typically, we see some of those types of guys that then can kick inside, rush from the interior. It seems like they're building that up with maybe a few more true interior defensive linemen. And I think the NFL's kind of going that way a little bit too. If you don't have a super athletic dude, try and get specific types, even though they can be exploited on the field. Teams don't run tempo enough to where that's going to really kill you, at least not at this stage in the NFL. Here comes a tempo year. Yeah, I was going to say, here comes a tempo year from Brady and the Bucks and ruining everything. So, yeah, that's a good signing for the Chiefs. What do you think this means for just the overall rotation, Maddie? Do you think obviously Stallworth, 1-year deal, whole bunch of guys that are out of contract, and then Chris Jones in the interior right now? How do you feel about the defensive line room as it stands?
I don't think it impacts the defensive line room really overall in terms of what they're doing in the draft, the rest of free agency. As you get into the year, I think Derek Nottie's snap counts are probably going back up a little bit this year, just from what I talked about earlier, and that no Jaron Reed. He's gone. I think that Nottie's snap counts are going to increase a little bit. I'm interested to see what happens with Turk Wharton and now Taylor Stallworth. Not that they're the same player. They're very different body types, but Turk Wharton's kind of been your energy juice coming off the bench as an interior rusher that's really getting guys when they're kind of tired. And now you have two guys that can do that. So just what's that look like? I don't know, good, bad, but I think Nottie's snap count might go back up towards that north of 50% like it was back in 2019, especially if he's healthy this year in another contract year. So I still think he's getting more snaps. I don't think Stallworth's a long-term guy. You might bring him back long-term and just be a consistent backup defensive lineman, but I don't think this stops you from looking at an interior defensive lineman in the draft. I mean, Chris Jones, who knows what's going to happen after this season with him? I mean, that contract gets a little wild going forward. So I don't know if there's a large impact on the roster building, but I think it could have a pretty good impact on the team from the fact that he's a quality player, and the more Derek Nottie gets on the field, I think the Chiefs defense is better.
I think so too. I agree. I think it's not going to preclude you, if somebody awesome fell to you, you're taking him still, because you need guys beyond this year, but you don't have to have another body in the room. You don't have to spend a premium asset that position. One position that the Chiefs may have a hole at right now, though, and a little bit of a rumor that we heard, that we see a little bit coming into this podcast. Frank Clark is out here
on the gram.
recruiting Tyrann Mathieu.
The gram is Instagram, Craig. I know. It's a youthful term.
Thank you.
I know.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
I thought you meant my grandmother. That's exactly what I know. Frank Clark on Instagram posting, come back for one, let's do this one more year. And, kind of alluding to the fact it's like, listen, he knows too. Like the one more year. Let's come back and do this. I believe this is the first time that we've seen any sort of real effort from anybody within the Chiefs players organization to reach back out after free agency. Now could mean nothing. I would think it would be a little bit out of place for Frank. Frank is not typically a guy that speaks a lot on let's try and get this guy in. Let's try and do this. And typically when that happens, like last year or the year before with Taco Charlton, all of a sudden it was a done deal. Like he seems to be at least tied in or at least confident in the ability to, talk about those sorts of things before they happen. Mentioning Tyrann Mathieu, who is still on the market right now. What's your takeaway from that, Maddie?
Frank's pretty quiet on the social media front. Like he's not a guy that hits you with a lot of stuff unless he's trying to sell you his clothing brand. Like he's not, a lot of stuff's not out there about him. And so when he does post stuff, I do think it is worth not saying like, oh, that's 100% happening, but it's worth noting when a guy doesn't say much and then all of a sudden he does, it's worth mentioning. And I mean, like we all know this, Frank Clark could pick up his cell phone and call Tyrann Mathieu. So like if he could do that, but instead he put it on Instagram and part of his story being public about it. There's something there. Now, I got something I got to get off my chest. Everybody's talking trash on Tyrann Mathieu for not signing yet, saying, oh, nobody wants him, nobody likes him, et cetera, et cetera. Why can't Tyrann Mathieu skip all this nonsense? Why is Melvin Ingram allowed to skip camp and go get paid and play for a contender? Why is any other veteran in the NFL allowed to not show up whenever everybody wants them to, but nobody thinks twice about it? Tyrann Mathieu hasn't earned the right to skip some of this nonsense. Like he can't sign in June and be just fine, especially if it's for the Chiefs, the team that he knows everything about this defense because he's been calling it on the field for the past 3 years. Like, why is nobody considering the fact that he isn't signed because he doesn't have to, because he's a veteran that's gone through a lot of football that doesn't have to play? Like, I just got to get that off my chest. I hope he comes back.
Let me say this. It's funny as we stand right now. Like, if the Chiefs turned around tomorrow and signed Tyrann Mathieu, I think there would be a lot of people that are upset with that. Some Chiefs fans that are upset with that. Meanwhile, if they turned around and signed Stephon Gilmore tomorrow, a lot of Chiefs fans would be rejoicing at that. So, I mean,
people trade for James Bradbury. Like, come on, what are we doing?
Yeah, I know. There's something to be said there. I do think part of this is because in the lead up to free agency, Tyrann was very vocal on social media, the opposite of Frank Clark, about his situation and how frustrated he was with what was going on in Kansas City. I think vague and directed tweets that kind of reference the fact that maybe Kansas City wasn't offering as much as he thought he deserved. And so now he's out there in the ether, and maybe he's still asking for that. Maybe we'll see what happens here. But
less money looks a lot better when you're skipping camp. Let me tell you that much real quick.
That's true. That's true. Not having to grind through all that stuff, and he's keeping himself busy. He's delivering speeches at LSU. He's
no, he didn't have a visit for the Saints. Yeah. Like he had a visit. So it's like I get why nobody's connecting the dots that he doesn't have to sign right away. Like, I get it because he has visited with the Saints now. People are connecting him to all these places. But, like, what is the rush for him, though? Like, at this point in time, especially, no, he's not got anybody in a bidding war. Why not wait until a little bit later? Why not see what happens after the draft? Maybe somebody doesn't get a safety they like. What if he can just skip camp and still make the same amount of money that he was going to make before? So, like, that's something I think people do have to consider. He's a veteran. These guys do it all the time. Maybe he's doing that. And if he's coming back to a team that he already knows the system, let's go for it. But Tyrann Mathieu isn't the only rumor we got, Craig.
No, it's not.
We got a
doozy of one right now. Little rumor from Bob Fesco of 610 Sports, saying that he had a buddy of him call and did a rumor of the Chiefs trading up well within the top 10 to take a wide receiver, and not just a wide receiver, Garrett Wilson of Ohio State. First of all, this is lying season. Let's be clear. let's preface this with this is lying season. Things that you are hearing, rumors about teams taking this, or heard from a little birdie that the Chiefs are interested in this guy in the draft. BS. That's just not. No. You didn't. This organization has gotten very good at staying buttoned up, especially over the last couple of years. So, you're not hearing who the Chiefs are interested here, but let's take a step back from that. Not just Garrett Wilson here, Maddie, but let's take a step back from that. The Chiefs trading up that high for a wide receiver. What I generally know your take on this, but let's get it right here with this same conversation. How do you feel about that?
Julio Jones was traded for a first-round pick, a second-round pick, a fourth-round pick, a first-round pick the following year, and a fourth-round pick the following year. So I have not done the math. That sounds about the value roughly as what we are going to be looking at for this trade. 2 firsts, presumably this year, and a second all this year. That seems like it's probably pretty comparable. For Julio Jones, like, go back.
Hey, hang on. Is Garrett Wilson Julio Jones?
God, no. Take yourself back to when Julio Jones was coming out. Everybody knew he was the guy. Everyone knew that he was the best wide receiver in the class. Everyone knew he was the best player in the draft. It was just how early could you take a wide receiver? Garrett Wilson might not want. He's definitely not the best wide receiver on his own team. That's Jackson Smith Enigma. He's the best.
My goodness.
Is he even the second best? Is he actually better than Chris Olave? Not according to the KCSN draft guide. So, like, what are we doing here? And let me preface this in saying, like Craig said, it's lying season. None of this information is guaranteed to be true. However, I personally would be absolutely shocked if the Chiefs loved Garrett Wilson. I don't think they love Garrett Wilson. I think he is a guy they want off the board before they pick. They would enjoy him being off the board. Again, lying season, so be careful where stuff comes from, but I don't think the Chiefs are enamored with Garrett Wilson the way some people around the league appear to be. So, like, add him into the equation. Like, what are we doing?
I mean, you start throwing rumors out there. You try and get some traction there. You try and get teams to sort of have second thoughts about who they're trading up for the Chiefs, who they're moving where. I mean, think back to 2017. Chiefs are moving up to the number 10 pick in the draft, moving up there, and
Reuben
Foster. That's the rumor. That's a rumor for the past couple weeks. The Chiefs are in love with Reuben Foster. They need a linebacker. They're willing to move up for him. Chiefs move up, and everybody goes, is this for a quarterback or is this for Reuben Foster? And it was for Patrick Mahomes because the other quarterback was Deshaun Watson. Like, they did not have any information out there that was saying, hey, we're moving up for Pat. And that would be the case here. What good does it do to have that information out there that you're willing to trade up for a specific position? Like, hey, we're looking at wide receiver. We're going to trade up there. You know, teams know the Chiefs are interested in wide receiver. It doesn't make any sense there. You know, we've not heard any smoke about defensive end. Matter of fact, the Chiefs reportedly haven't met with any of them. So it's, we haven't heard a lot about that position. And it just seems like we're hearing more and more and more about the Chiefs not only moving up, but moving up for receiver. I believe there was another mock draft on NFL Network today that was the Chiefs moving up to the early 20s for Jameson Williams.
And Todd McShay the other day, 17 with the Chargers. Okay, I feel very confident about two things. I don't think the Chiefs are trading up for Garrett Wilson. I don't care where it is. They're not trading up for Garrett Wilson. I don't think the Chiefs are trading up for Jameson Williams either because, one, I think he goes before they would be comfortable trading up. But two, everybody has that as their pick. When's the last time that everybody has had the Chiefs pick in an NFL draft? I don't even think Eric Fisher was a guy that, no, everybody thought it was Luke Jokel. So, like, nobody has had a Chiefs draft pick in a long time. It's everybody having Jameson Williams makes me feel like that was not likely. It's not going to be a trade up for Garrett Wilson. So like, we don't know what the Chiefs are going to do, but it is a lot of wide receiver talk. So we should just continue the wide receiver talk.
Yes, we absolutely should. Yeah,
this is fun. Hey Craig, what are the Chiefs doing at wide receiver? What's their plan? Like, what's the concept? What do they trade? They get rid of Tyreek Hill. They still have McCole Hardman, but Juju Smith-Schuster and Marquez Valdes-Scantling, they're not the exact same body type, but they share some similar traits, and they are definitely a hard shift from most of what Andy Reid has had. So, like, what are they doing at wide receiver?
They're getting more physical. I mean, they're getting a lot more physical. Our buddy Nate Tice, who maybe a little bit later on this offseason you might hear on this here network for an episode, but our buddy Nate Tice has been discussing a little bit the sort of receiver types, and he's very enamored with what the Chiefs are doing this offseason, moving to these heavier, more physical blockers on the outside, guys that can win underneath, but still have enough speed to make, defenses respect too high. And so, yes, a lot of these guys are on short-term contracts. It's not like the Chiefs are committed to a full shift towards that, but they've certainly gotten more physical. They've certainly got more powerful. I mean, they want guys that are going to be able to block well on the outside. They want guys that are going to be able to box out and win vertically as well. It's receiver body types that we really haven't seen a ton of. We've seen a little bit of that in Sammy Watkins. We certainly see that in Travis Kelce, who may be the de facto X receiver as it stands right now, which is fine. That's a good choice to make because defenses are treating it all like 11 personnel anyway. Might as well just line them up at the X. So with all that in mind, they do seem to be getting a lot more physical. They do seem to be making a shift towards that kind of receiver. And that also will benefit a guy like McCole Hardman, a guy who can get out in space, relies on a couple blocks to spring in. You got these good blocking guys on the outside. These plays that they, sort of get the ball in McColl's hands, we call them gadget plays, fabricated touches, whatever it is. Now, all of a sudden, you got guys that can put guys on their asses on the edge a little more, or, play a little more physical, crack back against a defensive end, coming out of the slot, a guy that can come in and line up a linebacker and make life difficult on him rather than, if Tyreek Hill is in the slot, that's a thing where you don't want Tyreek Hill running into a 250-pound linebacker over and over. It's not good for anybody. It doesn't work either way there. So it is going to be interesting to see the shift in philosophy. It is going to be interesting to see if they continue to add more of those guys in the NFL draft. I think we all expect the Chiefs to add a receiver at some point. But what types are they going to add? Matty, what do you think? Do you think that they're going to continue to add more physical bodies like that, or do you think they're going to start making complementary adds beyond that right now?
So this is the crazy part with kind of like what the Chiefs are doing at the wide receiver room right now, right? Like I think taking a step back, you have to come back at it and look at it this way. Andy Reid's coaching career, he's had various types of wide receivers at different times and stuff like that. But you go back, he's had three very clear number one wide receivers. And I think we all agree the Chiefs are missing their top guy right now. Like, I don't think the plan is Juju Smith-Schuster to be the top guy. I get it. Travis Kelce, you can make the argument. But like at wide receiver, they're missing the guy. So he's had three very clear types. Tyreek Hill and Deshaun Jackson. We'll put those two guys together. Your speed guys over the top. They win everything by running the deep routes. Like, that's what they do. They do more than that. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that's all they are, but that's where they win. You put them in the slot a lot. You keep them off the line of scrimmage. That's where they're best. Then I think I'm going to put Jeremy Maclin in there as a guy that matters. And I know he crossed paths with Deshaun Jackson, but I think that style of X wide receiver that was a separator. You could play him as your X on the line of scrimmage. You'd be your possession guy. He had the ability to run the vertical route tree, but he could also break it across the field. But it's a different type of X receiver. That's number two. And number three, Terrell Owens, your traditional X. Now, yes, Terrell Owens was a freak athlete, okay?
Yeah.
He's a freak. He's one of the best wide receivers ever played the game, but he was big as hell. I don't know, like, he was big, and he bullied people. Like, there's your three types of Chiefs wide receivers. So if you're looking for a wide receiver one for this team, you got a whole lot to choose from here. You can go speed, you can go separation, you can go big as hell. Like, what they can go anywhere. I would like to say what the additions they've made from offensive line to the receiver additions this year, to their running back and Ronald Jones, it looks like they're trying to get bigger and more physical. Would I be floored if they want to get another fast slot guy to maybe take over from McColl next year or to complement him and win over the middle, win underneath, win on the gadget stuff? No, it wouldn't shock me, but it also wouldn't shock me if they go get the big physical guy. I don't know if the Macklin type is what they're going for. That would seem the most outcast of this group right now. You're going to kind of be crossing that separating X wide receiver, your Keenan Allen type. Is that the guy you want to put in trying to be physical and blocking or to stretch the field? I don't know if that's the best fit. So I'm mostly looking at either your big physical traditional X receivers or your kind of really fast, take the top off of defense or gadget type guys is where my main focus is. Do you agree or disagree with that?
I mostly agree. I think the only guy that I see kind of in that, to call it for, in your terms, the Macklin role, Chris Olave, I think fits that.
Yeah.
I think that he'd be a guy that would definitely fit in that position. And so let's just dive in here. We did this last week with cornerbacks, and we kind of went round by round. One of us took day one, one of us took day two, and then one of us took day three, and we talked about best fits for the cornerback position. Well, because Kent's not here, because he's continuing to, look beautiful in Arizona right now. Man, I'm so jealous. So we're going to kind of go through it a little bit differently because there are so many types as we laid out there. And so we're going to talk about some guys in each day because I think that's where Chiefs fans are kind of laser focused on the wide receiver position for good reason right now. So let's start with day one. Let's start with Chris Olave in that Macklin role, how he would be able, he's an excellent route runner. He is excellent at putting his foot in the ground, getting out of the break, excellent with his hands, and he's still got the speed to take the top off the defense. He's going to be able to do both of those things. He's not a bad blocker. I wouldn't call him a bad blocker, but not the thickest, broadest, most physical guy that you're going to see out there. He's going to win via separation. He's going to win via that vertical speed. And I think that there is a role in there for him specifically because he's so good at all of it. I don't know. I'm with you. I don't know that I would specifically target that kind of guy, but because it's him, because he can be that guy, you can still win with that. It's a little bit against type, but it's something that he does so well that it's going to be enough of an impact. So that's that guy in that role. Matty, let's start talking. Let's go with the smaller guys, fast guys, burners in day one. Give me some options there.
So I mean, on day one, I agree with you that Chris Olave could definitely fit the Macklin role. Like that's very much a role he could fit in, but he's also a burner. He's also a deep threat. So like, I think he fits from that aspect of, I don't know if he's necessarily the slot guy, your gadget guy, but he can be your guy that takes off the top in the future. So like he fits multiple roles, kind of like Macklin did, to be fair. But if we're looking at another day one guy to really take the top off, the obvious low-hanging fruit is Jameson Williams. We're going to skip him because I think he's gone. I'm going with a surprise here. Christian Watson.
Yeah.
I don't think he's a big physical receiver. I don't think he's necessarily an X receiver. Can he do it? Yes, because he can run the vertical route tree, but I think he's at his best when just running deep routes. Just run vertical, go get behind the defense and catch the ball. Like that's what you do. You did it in North Dakota State. That's what you do. You look at his profile, it's explosive play after explosive play after explosive play. He's a willing blocker. He's good at it. So like he could cross over multiple roles, but like I don't see him as an X. If I'm profiling him up, he's not in my X category because that's not where he wins. He's not that physical as a route runner. He's soft. Like I don't like, he's pretty soft as a route runner, as a catch point guy, but he's really darn fast and really explosive. So I'm putting him in the burner category. And yeah, that's a guy I would look at it in day one. I don't know if you have any Watson takes or if you have a guy on day two that you like in a similar type role.
I mean, I'm going to look at that from the standpoint of if you're taking Christian Watson, we run into these guys in the draft every year that are terrific athletes, big dudes, maybe don't know how to use that size yet. I think that that's something that maybe with some refinement you can teach him. how to be a little more physical. You can teach him how to use that size to stack a little bit better, play a little more physical throughout the route. Like, so you would gamble on that. That's a good gamble. Like, he's got the type, he's got the build for it. So I wouldn't hate that. I do think you're going to have to take him round one. I don't think he's going to be there at 50. I think you have to take him with 29 or 30 if you're taking him. So I think that, yeah, he's probably your day one guy there. I mean, we could talk a little bit about your guy, Maddie, Sky Moore, guy that has the ability to, kind of get over the top a little bit. He's got some speed. You kind of see it a little bit with him, but he is smaller. You're probably going to play him in the slot. Again, not a physical guy, but if we're just talking about guys that are going to be good vertical threats, like he makes a lot of sense. A guy that has kind of been like a fringe round one, round two guy. He might be a day two guy, maybe at 50 or something like that. But why do you love him so much? Why do you love Sky Moore?
Why do I not?
Keep in mind that we have to keep this under another like 2 hours here.
Okay. Sky Moore has played wide receiver for exactly 3 years, and you are probably not going to find a guy who has been as good of a route runner in 3 years as he's been ever in the history of the NFL. And I don't mean like who was it? Was it Braxton Miller, where everybody showed all his clips of him running like 9-second routes because he had quick feet? They're like, looking good. No. Sky Moore's beating press coverage at 5'10", 5'9", 190 pounds. Like, Sky Moore is great. And he fits the Olave. He's perfect day two Olave to me because, like Chris Olave, not particularly good after the catch. Like, for as athletic and fast as these guys are, not the shiftiest after the catch. They go down pretty quickly. Now, Sky Moore has a ridiculous amount of like yards after the catch per reception, but it's because he runs RPO slants, and when he catches a slant, it's a straight line. He's gone because he's fast and explosive. So I think Sky Moore, you're going to have to take him by pick 50. You might have to take him in round one, but he's a guy that can play in the slot. You can put him out at Z, and you have two other bigger, more physical wide receivers that can play in the X position for you. So I love the move. Like, I love the pick. He fits in well with him if you're looking for that guy to go up and over the top. Like Craig said, we can't go on for 2 hours. So I'm going to go day 3 speedster. It's a little bit trickier. I don't know if Tyquan Thornton, he's the fastest wide receiver in the class. I'm going to pick him. I don't know if he goes day 3 or day 2 because he's the fastest wide receiver in the class. I actually DM'd Jacob Morley, who does the primary on the wide receivers for the KCSN draft guide. I DM'd him and I said, hey, if we didn't comp Tyquan Thornton to Marquez Valdez-Scantling, I don't know what we're doing. This guy likes to block. He likes to block. He's a lot lighter than MVS, but he likes to block, and he's really good on the vertical plane. That is MVS to a T. So, like, I love that option as a day 3 pick. I don't know if it fits great with the Chiefs, but he kind of does need a little bit of seasoning to go on. So you could throw him out there occasionally to really get Twin Towers, 6'2", over 6 feet tall, really fast, go down the field, catch the ball. You can get those big guys on these play action deep shots. But if not, you have your MVS replacement in 2 years when his contract is essentially up. I don't know if you have Thornton thoughts. You want to transition to smaller receivers, bigger receivers, where you want to go next?
I mean, where I want to go next is the Macadoodles, if we're being honest here, because as you may notice, I'm not drinking a beer right now. And I went down to my beer fridge and I said, you know what? I'm not feeling any of this. Man, I really wish that I had a place that I could go that had the selection that I wanted for the prices that I wanted, and somebody that could recommend something that I haven't tried before that's exactly, right up my alley. And I went, I don't have a Macadoodles here. So I got mad, and I'm putting it out into the world right now. If you are a franchisee, I need one near me. Get a hold of Roger, info@macadoodles.com. Let's get Macadoodles here where I am. Let's get another one in Kansas City in addition to the one that's coming to Lee's Summit in summer of this year. Let's get them all over the place and finally make me a happy man. You guys want me to be happy. So
of course,
get a hold of Roger and let's get one down here. I'm serious. Let's do this. Let's go with big receivers. I like big receivers. Let's start with the number.
Can you lie?
No, I can't. Okay. You can't deny it either. Let's start with wide receiver 1 in the KCSN draft guide. George Pickens. out of Georgia. And by the way, let me, before we dive into George Pickens out of Georgia, Christian Watson out of North Dakota State, Sky Moore out of Western Michigan. Just, some people don't follow the draft.
Look out,
quite as
Kent.
closely
Someone's coming for
as-
that job.
Listen. Some people don't follow the draft as closely as we do. So I'm going to throw out those schools there.
That's
that
why
way
you got to get into the link and buy your KCSN draft guide right now, because
That's true.
all the players,
It's available.
all the schools,
right there.
Chiefs fit, and you can get it immediately because it's now available. So check the link.
You don't even have to wait. So yeah. George Pickens, guy that burst on the scene as a freshman for Georgia and was really good. Tore his ACL in March of 2021, came back and played in the same season. 8 months later, he came back. He is a big guy, an ex-receiver, a physical player. I don't have enough time to describe how much I love the way that he blocks, and everybody else does as well. The way the man stock blocks is so impressive that there are highlight videos of him stock blocking cornerbacks. He ruins their days. He plants them on the ground and stands over them. Just he wants to play physical. He has a disdain for cornerbacks that want to line up and play physical with him. So if we're talking a big body guy that's going to go out there, be able to play physical, be able to block well, fit right in with exactly what the Chiefs are doing here, and play as an X receiver. Run those types of X receiver routes for Andy Reid. He's got good athletic profile, very strong broad jump, a very fast 40-yard dash, 4.47, and that's at 6'3", 195. And he's got a giant wingspan too. So just really big, really fast, capable of breaking off routes, capable of blocking. Like, he's wide receiver one in the KCSN draft guide because, I mean, frankly, all of us love watching him. And it was a shame that he got hurt last year because I think that everybody would have been all over this guy all year long. We just would have been gushing about him. So, Matty, George Pickens takes. I mean, you love him, right?
I do. I love George Pickens. I think as bad as the injury as the quarterbacks he's had to play with. I mean, going from Jake Fromm to Stetson Bennett, yikes. So I'm going to save a lot of my George Pickens takes because we will do, on the KCSN channel, we do a lot of draft talk too later in the week. And I'm not saying we're doing wide receivers this week. We'll probably do it the week before the draft. We're going to save that one to the very end because I know y'all want it. That's a long tease right there. But I'll get a lot of Pickens takes off there. For time's sake, I'm just going to jump into my day two guy, David Bell out of Purdue.
Ooh, yeah.
I think the athletic testing is going to scare a lot of people off, and I get it. I do. But we're talking an X wide receiver here. I'm not asking my guy to go out there and be a burner. You would like to be a little bit faster. You'd like to be a little bit more explosive. I completely agree. If you don't like David Bell on day two, I get it. But his ability to play in the slot or out wide, his body control, his ability at the catch point, the ability to play physical. Like, he's not George Pickens physical, but he's really darn close. So, like, David Bell to me is like that discount version. You can grab him probably in round 2 easily, maybe round 3. You get that X receiver, can kick into the slot. Maybe you don't want to always have Travis Kelce play in the slot and go block a linebacker. Go pick a wide receiver. Go get yourself a Robert Woods type that can do that. I don't mean he's Robert Woods as a player, but a guy that can go block a linebacker if you ask him to. That's David Bell. So, like, have him get in there and do that. I really love that pick for the Chiefs because, yeah, he's got some size, kind of like MVS or Juju, but he's a little bit different in that he can play on the outside. He wins at the catch point rather than over the top or with his route running and after the catch, even though he's good, as a route runner. So David Bell's my day 2 guy. Do you have a day 3 guy that you like in that kind of big X role?
I kind of do. I'm going to get a little creative here.
Okay,
and
I'm into
guy
this.
that I bet he sticks, Velus Jones Jr. out of Tennessee. And people are going to say, oh, Craig, he's 6 foot. Yeah, but he's 204 and he'll run through an arm tackle like nobody's business. He's going to primarily come into the league as a returner and an excellent one at that. but he is a burner as well. A 4.31 40, showed up down at the Senior Bowl and lit up guys, made contested catches, climbed the ladder, played very physical through the cornerbacks there. I think he's a guy that can come in, play as a modified X because he's got the physical traits and the speed in an Andy Reid system, Maddie.
I bet he sticks because if like exactly what you just said there, he's got that size. He's got the ability to run after the catch. He's a guy that's going to stay in the league with return ability, his ability to go out there, win some contested catches, get after it after the catch. Like these are things that matter. And so as an X receiver, you work on that vertical plane. He can do all those routes. You don't have to be the most polished receiver. So I bet Velus Jones sticks with that after the catch ability, with that explosive case. And guess what, guys? If you're looking for a new set of clubs, you got to check out Sticks Golf. This company's the absolute best. I don't know if you're like me and trying to get back into golf after like 8 years of not playing since the day of your wedding, or if you're like Tiger Woods and you're trying to get back to the absolute tip top of your game for the Masters, this company is for you. Go to sticks.golf. The promo code is KCSN10 to get you 10% off of your clubs, whether you want a base level set of clubs, something specific. KCSN10 gets you 10% off. There is nothing that will elevate your golf game more than sticks, just like nothing would elevate a team's game like Velus Jones Jr. in day 3 of the NFL draft.
You know what?
All right, Craig.
Maddie,
Go ahead.
Maddie, that's, I didn't get to put my guys this year. I didn't have time to watch enough guys to be able to plant my guys' stamps on guys this year. I can tell you right now, no BS, Velus Jones Jr. would have been one of my guy stamps. I love the man.
You enjoyed it.
I really did enjoy him. It's been kind of a running joke in, the draft DM, with everybody that wrote on the draft guide, that basically sitting there talking about that and all these guys that have graded it. I just keep bombing in every time somebody says his name. I like pop in around the corner. Like, somebody say Velus? Yeah, just
born the same year, ride together, like bad boys for life. Like, okay, right? I get
25. That's why he's going late. He's 25. Okay. He isn't old. So yeah.
All right, we're at 47 minutes, so we got about 11 minutes left of this show with you and I on it. Like that's where we're at. Do we have time to squeeze in kind of the gadgety slot guys round?
Yeah, let's do it.
3? Okay, you can go first. I'll let you go first on day 1 because you didn't get as many guys. So your day 1 gadget guy.
I mean, if I'm talking a gadget guy, and I don't know that he's necessarily just a slot guy, we're talking Treylon Burks out of Arkansas, a guy that, can play in the slot. You're going to use him in a lot of the ways that we've talked about the Chiefs if they were to acquire a guy like Laviska Shenault, the way that you would use him. A lot of people have comped him kind of to Deebo Samuel. I don't want to put that kind of lofty expectation on him, but the usage, you can see he's going to be very, very good after the catch. You're going to fabricate touches for him. And yes, I realize that means that you'd have 2 guys on this roster that you'd need to fabricate touches for, but Treylon Burks has a big enough body to where he's going to be able to line up on the line of scrimmage. You're going to probably be able to ask him to do some of those X wide receiver things. He's not ready to take over full time. You're not sticking him out there for 100% of the snaps. Still going to have to get creative to use him, but a guy with a high ceiling, a guy that, will need a little more advancement in his route tree, but a guy that you can fabricate touches for immediately, and he's going to be very good at them. Plus, Maddie, I don't know if you saw the story today. My man kills hogs with knives.
Whoa, I have pigs. What are you doing?
Yeah, I mean, sorry, don't tell Tank, but I mean, like, the man hunts hogs, wild hogs, with a knife. Like,
listen,
this is like Alan Bailey level stuff here.
We've let these pigs start free ranging a little bit, and they are terrors. So, like, if they keep it up, I might need to get Treylon Burks out here, low key. Like, this is getting a little ridiculous. I'm kidding, but also, yeah, I've talked about it, and I don't know if everybody agrees, but Treylon Burks makes a lot more sense without Tyreek Hill in Kansas City. And it's crazy because they're like wildly different body types.
But yes.
So many different RPO, yards after the catch, deep over route, like opportunities have now opened up. And I get it. A lot of that can go to McCall, but does it have to? No, it can go to this guy that might become your new wide receiver 1. these are all things that Treylon Burks excels at. Like literally Tyreek Hill's role is exactly what Treylon Burks does well. Like to a T, that's what he does well. Different body types, different style, but that's what he does good. So why not it being him? If I kick it to day 2, though, I'm going to go back to a little bit closer to the Tyreek Hill body type. I'm going to go Wan'Dale Robinson out of Kentucky. Now, he doesn't have the raw speed that you kind of think in that role when you think Chiefs gadget player. But what he does have, elite change of direction, elite just feel and body control after the catch. He is one of just like the most fun guys to watch move because he clearly moves at like a different level than everybody else. SIS Data Hub has released like a new draft site now. Like, so they have a lot of draft stuff, unique routes. Like they chart, the routes that players run. And for the most part, for big programs, you run like 10 routes because it's very simple. You pick up a basic route tree and that's what you run. Wan'Dale Robinson is 5th with 18 unique routes as a Kentucky slot wide receiver. Like, what are you doing there? That's my thought. So
yeah. We've heard stuff from people who know people within the Kentucky organization that love stuff. We've heard stuff, stuff. They loved him. Loved Wanda. Like, it was their favorite player, like their absolute favorite player. And they loved to deploy him just however they possibly could. I believe what their offensive coordinator is now with the Rams. Is that
okay?
Correct,
Listen,
Matt?
Wan'Dale Robinson's probably going to the Rams because Liam Cohen loves him and he pulled him in from Nebraska. That's fine. Maybe Andy Reid loves him too. Maybe Andy didn't like Liam Cohen. Maybe he just liked Wan'Dale. Like, let's go with that. So I think he's a guy. If the Chiefs want to get a yards after the catch, possession gadgety guy to pair with MVS and Juju and Travis Kelce, these bigger guys that are going to stretch a little bit more vertically, he's a guy to operate in what that vacant space is going to be. So, like, I like the addition of him if that's the goal. I'm not saying it is the goal, but if that's the goal, he makes a lot of sense there. And the athletic profile not quite being what I think a lot of people thought might allow him to be there on day 3. Do you have a day 3 guy?
I don't have a day 3 guy, Maddie. You go. Yeah.
Buddy. Here we go.
Who you got?
This is my Treylon Burks day 3 version. Eric Azukanma. I think I said that right, from Texas Tech.
Yeah.
So you watch him, and now he was hurt this past year, right? So that's part of the issue. He's a little bit hurt. He got banged up down the stretch, but you watch him from early in the year versus Houston or versus Texas. He's a 6'2", 210-pound wide receiver. So not as big as Treylon Burks, but getting there, you get this man the ball. Just get him the ball and watch him spin, run. I want to say juke, but it's not a juke. It's just like sidestep and slide off of tackles and just keep going. The amount of times that he should be on the ground that he's not once he has the ball is through the roof. Now, like Treylon Burks, I think there is some ability. You can slap him as an X wide receiver on the line of scrimmage, let him beat press and go win a contested catch. Now, he's not going to separate worth a darn. Like, it's just not going to happen. But what he will do, get physical at the catch point, go up and catch the ball, and then you give him this manufactured screens, stuff over the middle of the field. I get why Treylon Burks is a highly coveted prospect, but if you miss out on him and you have a chance to get Azukanma at day 3, like, I think that's I'm probably butchering the name. I'm so sorry, Patrick Mahomes and Texas Tech faithful. But Patrick LaVon Mahomes, you get this guy on day 3. Like, I think he very much fills a similar role, and you're not spending near as much draft capital on him. So, like, I like going from Wan'Dale to another big, like, I like how we went from like massive gadget slot guy, tiny gadget slot guy, big gadget slot guy again.
Yeah, no, that's fun. So those are some names for you to keep an eye on. Once again, KCSN draft guide is out. Link is right down here in the information. Go there, get that, buy the draft guide. You've got it right now. There are offers out that will allow you to also subscribe to the Substack. We're going to have film reviews. We're going to have breakdowns. It gets you into the Discord. Some of this stuff that Maddie's talking about, we've been doing film rooms where we've been breaking down prospects, showing film.
Speaking of wide receivers.
Yes.
Tonight, when you listen to this, Treylon Burks, George Pickens, 2 guys that have been mentioned on the show as round 1 fits for the Chiefs. So after you listen to this, make sure you pop over, get subscribed into that KCS and Discord, because I don't know if somebody else can have the ability to join me. I'm not putting pressure on anybody, but I'm going to be watching some Treylon Burks and some George Pickens with you guys and telling you what I think. So, like, guys we just talked about, we're going to go watch their film if you're curious what they look like.
Yeah, and it kind of gives you a little bit of an insight into the way that these guys all sit down and watch film. So it's fun, and also we're a lot more brutal on that than we typically are. Like, I mean, we don't hold back. So anyway, thank you all so much for tuning in to yet another edition of the KC Laboratory. We will be back later this week with the KC Draft Show, and we'll be back early next week with another live edition on Monday of the KC Laboratory, hopefully with some Chiefs news. Let's see what happens. Let's just throw that out there in the world. All right. Thank you all for listening, and we'll catch you later.